my channel. As promised, I said I was going to do a cook with me video showing you how I make my Persian rice. I think the actual name of you'll have to excuse Layla if you're hearing her meowing in the background. She wants to go out running in the hallway and I won't let her. I said I would make my Persian rice. I think the actual name of it is pomegranate and pine nut pilaf, I believe is the actual name of it. Pomegranates, of course, you can only get around Christmas time here. So I tend to use a lot of dried cranberries in my rice instead. I also use, I believe, and I really like them in there, is the I think they're called zareshk or something. I can't, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But berries, they're like a very tart, they look like a very, very tiny cranberry, and they have like that tartness to them. And they really offset the sweetness that you get from like the raisins that are in this dish. And it's actually a big hit. I made it one time for my family, and now it's pretty much been the go-to dish that I make when we have family get-togethers and stuff like that. So I'm going to show you how I make it. So we're going to start over here and I'll show you the ingredients. All right. So first we have just some vegetable broth and some butter. And I use some, as I said, I'm using dried cranberries. This is the Terra Beta. I usually have like the cran raisins, but I thought I had some in my cupboard and I don't, but I have these ones. So I'm going to use these ones. It takes basmati rice, 1 red onion. It takes about a 1/4 cup or so of golden raisins. And it says about 1/4 cup of pine nuts toasted. Now, you can always leave them out. I leave them out sometimes because pine nuts are actually really, really expensive. Sometimes I omit the actual pine nuts. And so that's basically everything that is in this dish. So let's just get going. Alright, so first things first, I just have some water here in this measuring cup. And I usually like to soak my rice while I prep everything else. So I'm putting in about a cup. I'm just going to eyeball this. I never measure anything anymore, but I'm going to put in about a cup or so of rice. It's basmati rice. I'll put that back there. Just grabbed a butter knife instead. And I'll just give that a little bit of stir. That's going to sit back there. Alright, next I'm going to get my little red onion. And I'm going to need a little compost bag. I always hate when I'm trying to put the compost bag, open it up, it always sticks together on me. Anyway, we're just going to stick that there, and I'm going to go wash my hands right quick again. And grab a knife. Alright, now let's hope that this onion is still good. Yeah, we're good. You never know. Sometimes I've had good onions, sometimes I've had bad onions. Alright, so this one's okay. My fridge has a habit sometimes of freezing on the top shelf, so if I just happen to have my onion stuck up there, sometimes some of my stuff freezes. And I've turned it down. It's not just a matter of turning it down, I think it's just the fridge is on its last legs, I think, and I think that's the issue. But anyway, I don't own the fridge, so I can't just go and tell them that they can have a new one until it actually dies. So this is probably going to be really loud in the channel. I talk like quieter than probably the noise of this chopping. So, and I am no chef by any means, so you can see I'm not that quick of a chopper. I know there's a whole special way of holding the knives when you're chopping, but I can't get to having my fingers and hands that close to the knife. I'm always scared. See, I'm gonna chop them all off or something. So I'm kind of accident prone sometimes. So I tend to play it safe. And everything's going everywhere. So this is going to be a comedy video as well, obviously. I won't bother using that one. That one looks like it was ready to sprout. Alright, so that's the onion chopped up. So next thing, I'm going to just get this out of the way before I turn on the heat and it all burns. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, well, first move that sideways, and I'm going to turn on my pan. The burner there under my pan. I'm going to take my butter. My butter's going to melt. This is about 1/3 cup of butter. Actually, it's probably more like 1/2 cup. So I'm just going to quickly cut this up just to make it easier to melt. See how that looks after I won't put all this in. I think I'll just put this much in. Sometimes I find it's a little bit too much butter. We'll see. We'll see when it starts to melt. I'll just put the other one in. This might all go south. Right. Put that there. So we're going to melt this butter all up. And then once we melt the butter, we are going to add the onions to it, and we're going to kind of almost saute the onions, soften them all up. And then once that happens, then we drain our rice, and then we add the rice to the butter and onions, and and then let it all kind of absorb into one another. Alright, so the butter is all melted. I'm just going to turn the heat down just a little bit here before it catches alight. And I'm going to add my onions to it. And so I'm just going to mix the onions all in. Get them all nice and coated with that butter. I'm going to clean up these little bits. You can actually chop the onions up a little bit smaller than I did. It's like, if you want them smaller, you can have them smaller. If you like a bigger chunk of onion in them, you can. I usually, most of the time, I have them fairly small chunks, but I've noticed I have a few. Oh, it's, the onions are getting to me. I think it's the heat from them now. I usually have them a little smaller, but there is some bigger chunks in here. I think I just missed a big piece when I was chopping. Alright. So I'm just going to let that cook for a bit. Then I'm going to drain the rice and add it to the pot. A few more stirs, then I'm going to add this rice. As I said, there's about a cup of rice in here. Now, what we do now is you stir that rice into with everything else. So you're going to get it nice and coated because you're going to bring that flavors right into the rice. So now the next thing we do is we add some vegetable broth. I suppose you can use chicken broth if you want. I tend to use vegetable broth. And I'm going to put about a cup in here. Actually 2 cups. Give it a little stir. Alright, so what we're going to do is bring this back to a boil. And I'm going to cover it. And it's going to cook. So I'm going to leave this for about 15 minutes. I'll probably stir it through just so it's not sticking to the bottom. But I'll leave it for about 15 minutes to cook. Alright, next is I'm going to do the pine nuts. I'll just do it on this back burner here. Now, anybody else has experience like me with cooking with nuts and you gotta toast them, like even coconut or anything like that? It's kind of one of those things that you kind of watch and you're like, okay, hurry up and toast, hurry up and toast, hurry up and toast, and all of a sudden, boom, it toasts. It's like that, and if you're not there watching it, it's gonna burn. So pine nuts is no different. So I'm gonna sprinkle them into my little pan here. Sure. I don't know about you, but I use binder clips for all my stuff. I love it. Alright, so I've got my little pine nuts down here. And I said you gotta kind of watch it because it's one of those ones that you're waiting, it seems forever. It's like one of those watch pot never boils situations. So it's not toasting, and then all of a sudden it's toasted and burnt within seconds, it seems. So I'm just going to leave that there to toast up. I can hear this boiling, so I'm going to just open this up, give it a stir. That's just getting started to toast. I'm going to quickly get the bowl out here. Let's put it over there to the side. This is cooking down nicely. This is nice and toasted, and I can hear it starting to go. So I'm actually going to turn the heat off. Alright, so it's pretty much cooked up. I did have too much butter and it's a little bit too wet for my liking. Although I didn't use too much broth, I think the issue is that I did actually soak the rice, and this, and like Uncle Ben's, I haven't actually used in this rice before, or in this dish rather. And I just read the packet now and it says that you don't need to pre-soak the rice. So that probably pre-cooked it a bit using some of, or pre-saturated the thing, so that's why it's kind of mushy now. Lesson learned, I normally just use the regular rice. I didn't normally use like any quick rice or Uncle Ben's before, so maybe you might not want to do that, or if you use that, you might not, well, definitely not pre-soak your rice. But if you use the other rice, you will have to pre-soak it. So anyway, that's all done there now. So I'm going to turn the heat right off. And it does have too much butter, but that's okay, it's just going to be nice and buttery. Alright, so next I'm going to put in the pine nuts, and I'm going to take about, this is a comedy of errors when cooking, everything's going everywhere. Of course, because the camera's on. Alright, I'm going to take about a little bit over 1/3 of a cup of golden raisins. I'm telling you, binder clips. You get them at the dollar store and they save a ton of money instead of all those chip clips. Right. But now I'm going to use about 1/3 of a cup of cranberries. And I'm going to stir that all in, mix it all together. So it's pretty much what you're making is a jeweled rice. The raisins and the cranberries will also absorb some of that extra moisture. And the other thing I forgot when I was doing the ingredients at the beginning, they say to add salt and pepper. I tend to not add salt and pepper. There's enough salt within the butter that you use and the broth. And I just don't feel like I didn't really need the pepper either. But I do add some thyme. I just kind of shake it in there like that. Not too much. There's probably about 1/4 of a teaspoon in there to 1/2 a teaspoon. There's not a whole lot in there. And so I'm just going to mix it all together. Now if you want to add more raisins, you certainly can, or if you want to add more cranberries, go for it. It's totally up to you. As I said, you can omit also the pine nuts because they are a little bit more expensive. If you don't want as much onion in it, you can leave some of the onion out. It's totally up to you what you want to put in it, but this is how I make it. Alright, so I'm going to plate it up in here into this bowl. Like I said, it's going everywhere, comedy of errors. And clearly my bowl is a little bit too small. or too big rather, too big. Just gonna give it another final stir. Now, you can serve this warm or you can serve it cold. It's good either way. It's good either way. It's also freezable. I freeze it. I tend to, when I make a big batch of it, I tend to freeze it in like those little small mason jars. I tend to freeze it in that, and for just portion sizes for when I want to, and I usually heat it up after that. So it's great. All right, and that's the rice there. It's all done. You can see the pine nuts in it, the red onion, the golden raisins, and the dried cranberries. So that's it right there. And trust me, it tastes amazing. All right, so as I said, that's it done. I'm gonna give it a taste. Get a little bit of everything in there, the onion, the rice, the cranberries, the pine nuts, the golden raisins, just a little bit of taste of everything. And here we go. It tastes so good. So, so, so good. But yes, if you're using that Uncle Ben's rice, don't pre-soak it. Lesson learned. But if you use the other rices, definitely pre-soak it. But yeah, this is so, so good. I'm just going to want to have all of it, but I won't. I'll probably freeze it. So, first of all, I'd like to thank, since my last video, I think my subscriber count has just about doubled. So thank you for everybody that's new coming in. Thank you very much. If you like this video and if you'd like to see more cook with me videos, I promise they won't be all comedy of errors. You can give this a great big thumbs up and subscribe if you're new. And I will also put the link for this down below. So I'll put the actual link for the actual recipe down below in the comment section. And I hope you all have a great day. Until next time, bye.